Welcome back. More people are becoming apprentices in our state than ever before.
Yeah, the Department of Workforce Development celebrating record high numbers of registered apprentices in Wisconsin right now. Emily Roberts live this morning outside Faith Technologies University in Fox Crossing. So you dug into these numbers, Emily. What's the latest?
Tammy Emerson, Faith Technologies Incorporated is noticing a lot more interest in the trades. More than 1,100 people are part of the apprenticeship program here at Faith Tech University. But on a larger level, Wisconsin's registered apprenticeship program has nearly 17,100 enrolled apprentices. Again, that's a record. Well, Faith Technologies University, part of Faith Technologies Incorporated, FTI, is separate. Their program is similar in pairing on-the-job training with classroom instruction. Apprentices are also paid to earn as they learn. They have 2 apprenticeship paths, electrical and specialty systems to earn a license or certification. Apprentice Callie Fink says the real-world experience she gets at job sites is amazing.
Just the reward after lighting up a light or putting in an outlet or even just doing a conduit run. It's just a nice reward at the end of it.
Once they have a license, they can do almost anything in our organization.
Absolutely.
From being a project manager to being a site lead to coming into the office to being a detailer, an engineer. There's a total of opportunities for our employees.
Governor Tony Evers and the Department of Workforce Development say more apprenticeships are popping up to keep up with that demand. Live in Fox Crossing, Emily Roberts, Action 2 News.